Have you ever had a spouse cheat on you? What if you could sue the person who's been sleeping with your spouse? There's a little-known law in some states that allows a spouse to sue their cheating spouse's side piece under a legal theory called alienation of affection. We've been learning more about this law because it's currently being used in North Carolina against a former United States senator in civil litigation. Heather Amell, a mother of 3, is suing former Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema for sleeping with her husband, who was Senator Sinema's security detail. These female lawmakers sure do seem to have a thing for their security guards. Representative Cori Bush even married hers. It's important to remember that what we're about to show you are allegations. They haven't been proven yet, and Senator Sinema deserves a chance to put out her side of the story. But the allegations are saucy. Heather Amell has accused Sinema of destroying her family and her 14-year marriage. Allegedly, Senator Sinema pressured her bodyguard to do psychedelics with her during sex romps around the world. Senator Sinema and Mr. Amell messaged about having sex missionary style with the lights on, and Senator Sinema stated, boring. Can't blame a girl for preference, but best not to prefer someone else's husband for these type of encounters. Around May or June in 2024, according to the lawsuit, Mr. Amell stopped wearing his wedding ring. Mr. Amell stated it was best for public optics so it wouldn't look like Senator Sinema was putting her hands on a married man when they were at concerts and other public events. Can you just imagine making that argument to your wife? Honey, I won't be wearing my wedding ring anymore because when another woman at work starts grabbing me, it just looks bad if she's grabbing a married man. Yeah, I bet that would go well for a lot of people. There's more allegations. Quote, around that same time, Mrs. Amell discovered more messages between Senator Sinema and Mr. Amell. Senator Sinema expressed to Mr. Amell she keeps waking up during her sleep and reaching over for his arms to hold her. Plaintiff then confronted Mr. Amell. I bet. In the months following, Mr. Amell struggled to admit that he was having an affair with Senator Sinema, but was vocal he was leaving his wife and that they were divorcing. In October, soon after Mr. Amell returned home to North Carolina after being away with Senator Sinema on another work trip, Senator Sinema messaged him saying, quote, I miss you, putting my hand on your heart. I'll see you soon. Mrs. Amell responded to that message saying, are you having an affair with my husband? You took a married man away from his family. Then in 2023, Senator Sinema, with actual knowledge of this marriage between the two, began willfully and intentionally seducing, enticing, and alienating the affections of Mr. Amell and began to wrongfully and maliciously deprive Mrs. Amell of the warmth, companionship, love, affection, consortium, society, financial contributions, services, and attention of Mr. Amell. Let's get into the likelihood of success on a claim like this with our favorite litigation expert. Joining us now is Michael R. Parker, the managing partner of M.R. Parker Law. Michael, thanks for joining us. Alienation of affection. It is a state law that seems to allow a spouse to sue the paramour of their cheating spouse. What do you have to prove to win a case like this?
Yeah, so Kyrsten Sinema had a relationship with her security guard, Matthew Amell. And his wife, Heather, sued for alienation of affection. It's a very unusual tort. Almost every state in the United States has already gotten rid of it, but it does exist in North Carolina. And what you have to prove is, number one, a valid marriage. Obviously, that's going to be easy. Number two, loss of affection due to wrongful or malicious conduct. And then there has to be a causal connection between that conduct and the end of the marriage or the loss of the affection of your partner. Now, it is very difficult to prove, but I think in this situation, the elements are met. So if you look at what occurred between Kyrsten and Matthew, you'll see that she plied him with MDMA, so essentially ecstasy, right? That heightens your dopamine, that heightens your serotonin, that creates oxytocin, and that helps you bond with someone. She took him to U2 concerts, to Vegas, and she actually misappropriated federal funds to put him on her staff and to take him to all these places. So I think if you're looking at what the elements are, if the elements are met, there's a strong case here. And I don't know what's going to play out in the courts, but definitely, in my opinion, the elements have been met.
Yeah, you talk about the existing nature of a relationship being disrupted. I took note that in this pleading, over and over, the plaintiff, the ex-wife now, is saying, we had this great marriage, we had this great romantic relationship and sexual relationship. I'm wondering if a defense would be that, like, their marriage wasn't that great anyway. She wasn't getting a lot of affection and consortium anyway. Would that be a defense in a case like this?
Yeah, there actually are several defenses to this tort. Now, they had a 14-year marriage. It was a very long, and according to Heather, a very loving and, sexually interested marriage. However, there are defenses. So one of them is that there's no existing love or affection, that the plaintiff's misconduct wasn't the cause of the loss of affection, right? Or that there was consent by the partner to this interaction. So we'll break down all three and we'll talk about what that means. So the first one is no existing love or affection. So had Heather and Matthew had a tumultuous relationship, if they weren't having sex, if they weren't getting along, that would be a defense, because you cannot take away the affection of someone when no affection exists. So that would be a defense. However, according to Heather and her pleadings, that wasn't the case. Number two, that the misconduct didn't deprive the partner of the affection. As I said before, the misconduct here is very clear on what it did. MDMA is a very strong bonding chemical, going on dates to concerts, going on trips to Vegas, right? It's very clear if loss of affection did happen, this was the cause of it. And the other one was consent. So had Heather known about this relationship and she stuck with Matthew anyways, and she said, hey, look, I know you're going through it. Let's do therapy. We'll work through it. That would also be a defense. But from what I've seen in the pleadings, from what I understand, that didn't occur. So while there are defenses to this tort, nothing I've seen in the news articles or the pleadings supports defenses in this case.
Is love a defense? Could Senator Sinema say, look, I know I was having an affair with your husband, but I love him, and affection is zero-sum, and sure, you lost some, but I got some, and I love him?
Love wouldn't be a defense for her, but it would be a defense if he loved her and he came on to her. So if Matthew fell in love with her through their interactions, through no action of her own, that would be a defense. So let's say they were hanging out together in staff meetings. They were going on trips where he was protecting her and he caught feelings for her based on something she did that was purely platonic. Then that would be a defense because she didn't alienate the affection. Her conduct didn't cause the loss of his love for Heather. But like I said, that's not what it looks like here. From what I understand, she encouraged him to do drugs with her. She encouraged him to go on trips with her. She misallocated federal funds to take him places. So it depends on which way the river flows. And if the river flows from Matthew to Kyrsten, then that's a defense. But if it flows the other way, then there's no defense there.
That is so interesting. And of course, these are allegations, and she's got the opportunity to have a responsive pleading and to make her case in court. If the plaintiff prevails here, how do you calculate damages? Like, what do you have to say? Like, this is what I would have to pay someone to be my husband, and so that's what I'm owed?
So the maximum damages, I believe, in the state are $75,000. I believe the plaintiff is asking for $25,000. What I think is that if a jury thinks the conduct is reprehensible, they'll award the damages just based on the feelings of the partner. And to be honest, I don't think Heather is doing this for the money, right? This is a very public figure. Kyrsten is, a former senator. She's a lobbyist currently. And I think really what the retribution or the vindication here is for Heather is the public spotlight. This is being done to call attention to the country that this senator did morally reprehensible conduct, that, there needs to be some sort of vindication. And I think the fact that this was filed alone is really what the benefit is for Heather. And it's not malicious. It's not her being a bad person. It's her getting closure on something that was a horrible chapter in her life that she had to deal with because of the conduct of this public official.
Yeah, when I saw this story, Michael, I thought to myself, how are these cases not brought all the time? Like, unfortunately, adultery is a feature of a lot of marriages in this country. And if spouses knew they could go sue like the side piece of their cheating spouse, I would think like 50 of those cases would be filed every day. Is it really just North Carolina where people can bring these claims? And even in North Carolina, why aren't they litigated more frequently?
So most states, like I said, got rid of these statutes. I think there's a handful, maybe a half dozen that have them. It started more with the liberal states having, no fault divorces, right? Because the cause of divorce in most situations is financial or infidelity. So, in order to eliminate punitive consequences for infidelity, most states have initiated no fault divorces. And that's the reason why this statute doesn't exist in most places. And even in North Carolina, it's extraordinarily rare. Number one, the financial damages are fairly low. Number two, most people are understanding of infidelity, but I think in this situation, it's particularly egregious because of the use of federal funds, the fact that drugs were involved, which, to me, that's the most egregious part. The fact that she essentially gave him drugs that are bonding drugs to create this affection, to create that bond is, to me, that's reprehensible. So that's really in this situation why I think this is appropriate. I think a lot of situations are people grow apart, there's no affection, and then an affair happens, which is why you don't see this a lot. Most affairs happen after the love dies, after the sex dies. And from what I understand of this situation, the love was still there, the sex was still there, the affection was still there. And that's why in this particular situation, this is an appropriate tort to go after, and why you don't see it very often in other cases.
We will follow it very closely. I know you've gotten verdicts in like the tens of millions, so $75,000 does seem like a small amount, but I think if you told most people in this country that they could go get 75 G's out of whatever hussy was running around with their husband, they would definitely do it. Michael R. Parker, thank you as always for your expert legal analysis.
Thanks so much, Matt.